Hey guys, it's Roscoe, and on the Space Couch today I want to talk to you about United Launch Alliance, which we haven't spoken about much on this show. Now, they are a joint venture of Boeing's defence arm and Lockheed Martin's space and defence arm. Now, this was founded in December 2006 when they were competitors, they realised neither could make any money undercutting each other. And they were doing that to the bone, I guess, as these things go. But if they teamed up together, that would lead to better choice, better cost control and lower costs. Obviously, that did not happen, as is usually the case with monopolies, in fact. Now, United Launch Alliance, it's like the preferred launcher for the US military, especially for those very sensitive payloads. In fact, currently they're the only one who can launch those classified national intelligence assets. Now, it gets $1 billion a year for doing nothing. Essentially maintaining its operational readiness. What does that even mean, really? It's essentially free government money. And you know defence contractors, and they love them some of that. I mean, and this $1 billion surcharge, that is in addition to the cost of its launches. And they can run up to almost $500 million each, those launches. Compare that to, say, 90 million for a Spacex launch. Currently, it's 90 million. It will go down probably into the single figure millions. We'll see. Now, anyway, United Launch Alliance, they currently offer several rockets. There's the Atlas V, the Delta IV, the Delta IV Heavy, and the Delta II. Now, these are all legacy rockets of Boeing and Lockheed. There's none that ULA has designed from scratch itself. Now, however, those rockets are going to be phased out in due course, and they're planning on building that Vulcan rocket, with the Blue Origin engines that will detach and all of that. I don't know, we shall see. Obviously, some of those ULA rockets are using that Russian RD-180 engine, but global geopolitical situation the way that it is, who knows how long that will be practical, I mean, even if it's possible, it could be that politically it's just too difficult. We shall see. I mean, they don't really want to rely on the Russians, so I guess they do have to come up with something new instead. Now, the main issue, I'd say, with ULA is its costs. And its lack of innovation, especially in light of the rise of Spacex and some of those smaller rocket companies, like say Firefly and Rocket Labs, who are maybe just snapping away right at the distance, could eventually become major players. Yeah. So, let's see, as I said, some of ULA's launchers are like $460 million. But they claim an average launch $225 million, and that future launches are going to be as low as $100 million. No doubt, just in time for SpaceX to be offering launches for about $5 million, I expect. I mean, they're behind the curve financially and technologically, but they do have some things in their favour, make no mistake. Now, they're very close to many lawmakers and Air Force officials at the federal and the state level in the United States. And as always with these giant military industrial companies, there's a well-worn path from one to the other. Politicians, once they're no longer elected, joining the board, becoming advisors, all of that. Same with Air Force officials, They leave, say, the procurement office, and then they get a job in procurement or in government relations at the company, One hand washes the other, as always, with these things. They've got influence and clout, make no mistake about it. This is how they can get away with $1 billion surcharge for years, and no one has questioned it. But now, those competitive pressures are getting quite extreme. SpaceX evolving rapidly, as we know, assuming their reusable rockets come to fruition within the next year at the most, ULA. Dinosaur asteroid time. Now, they do say they want to reduce costs, ULA, especially for this upcoming Vulcan rocket. But guess which way they're going about it? As always, they're doing the slashing staff and cutting facilities route, rather than perhaps improving their processes and becoming more efficient, or investing a hell of a lot more into research and development and just taking that hit because you can't innovate unless you pay for it, you know? It's obvious, you would have thought. But then again, we do know they're not known for their original thinking. Indeed, that's hardly a surprise though, is it? Now, this Vulcan rocket that I've mentioned, that's their upcoming rocket, obviously. But as I've mentioned in previous videos, this element of reusability, it does sound overly complicated, doesn't it? I mean, it might be possible, you know, I mean, but the main thing I've got is that it's that whole thing, it does seem overly complicated, as I say. Engines attach, return to Earth, deploy a heat shield, deploy parachutes, get caught in mid-air by a helicopter. I'd love to know what the risk guys think of all of this. I mean, I don't know. And say that all works until that very last moment, and then you miss the engines, and they go crashing into the ground. So much for being reusable. I mean, you can't reuse destroyed engines. But then again, it's kind of like a government contractor's dream, isn't it? I wonder how much, if any, of the work will have been done without government money. You know how these giant contractors, oh, they love to promise the earth, but only if you pay for it. Not a dime of their own money will go on these things. It's funny, isn't it, how it's the behemoths that need the subsidy and the upstarts that don't. Quite often in various industries, it's usually the other way around, where you need to protect the new entrants. Not the case in this field. But you know what, it is going to be increasingly difficult for ULA to justify its prices if and when those Spacex rockets do become fully reusable, as I say. And as I've said several times, ULA and others like them likely to go the way of the dinosaurs. That's probably why they're putting out as many stops as they can to get as many uncompeted satellite launchers for the US Air Force and other military branches in their pocket before SpaceX are certified to compete for them. I mean, they're very uncompetitive with those contracts. I mean, it's like, what was that one that ULA got? Something like, was it 36 rocket cores for X billion of dollars just before SpaceX were due to be certified to be a competitor? Colour me stunned. That's what happens when you have military and political connections. You get the rub of the green like that, you know? But it's not going to save them forever. Sooner or later, there will just be too much pressure from lawmakers and the public and from industry saying, why are you wasting all this money? These guys are charging you X for each launch. We could give you half a dozen launches for the same price. It's also a little bit off track, but you know the Boeing CST-100 and the Dragon V2 capsule from SpaceX to replace the Russian flights with the ISS? Now that's supposed to be much, much cheaper than that $70 million that the Russians are charging, or whatever the figure is now, it's probably gone up. But it worked out as an average $58 million a launch. That is not that much difference from the Russians. What I expect that to be is something like SpaceX being very low on that price spectrum and Boeing being right at the other end. Maybe even $70 million a flight or over, who knows. It certainly would have to be very high for them to get to an average of $58 million. I wonder. I guess once they're doing those individual those passenger flights to Bigelow habitats and other stations, we'll actually find out how much it actually costs to launch each of these capsules. I know there's some pricing information on the Bigelow website, but who knows how up to date that is. Anyway, guys, that was just a quick overview of United Launch Alliance, one of the major players in the space and rocket industry for the time being. How long will they last? Please subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed this content. Leave me a comment or a suggestion for a topic you'd like to see discussed in the future, or hit that big high five button.